Good morning. We will call our special meeting to order for August 5th to choose the finalists for the city manager. Ms. Poyer.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Jennifer Porter, Human Resources Director. Last week, you all should have gotten both an electronic and physical copy of a semi-finalist city manager report that contains 12 finalists recommended by Baker Tilly, our recruitment firm that has been hired to handle this search. We have with us today both Ann Lewis and Chuck Rohr to present the finalists and have this discussion to narrow it down to 5 or whatever the council desires to bring in for the finalist round. With that, I will turn it over to Ann and Chuck.
And before I do that, we do have an opportunity for citizens to be heard. My understanding from the clerk is that we have no comments at this time and we have no citizens in the audience. Ms. Lewis, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to be with you again virtually this time. Mr. Rohr, do you want to take this over from here?
Sure. Good morning, Mayor and Council. We appreciate the opportunity to present this report. We reached out to potential candidates with an application apply by date of July 21st. Since that time, considerable activity has occurred. We received a total of 109 applications for the city manager position. Ann reviewed those, I reviewed those, we reviewed them independently, and then we met and had common ground on 15 candidates to whom we sent questionnaire documents after reviewing their resume. We collected questionnaires and the questionnaire addendum, which essentially asks due diligence questions. And then we met and agreed that the 12 candidates that are before you are those that we consider most qualified on the basis of their experience, their education, their temperament, and also their sincerity of interest in your position. You'll notice in your books on candidate 12, unfortunately, there were 2 candidates there. The correct candidate is Leonard Soseman. It was a clerical error. In some of your books, there was an additional candidate there, which in our opinion, he was one of the individuals we collected a questionnaire. We did not believe that we believe he had enough issues in his prior employment that he was not the answer to your question. Much like Ann and I reviewed the 109 to get down to the 12, our request of you is that based on the resumes, the cover letters, the video interviews you may have had an opportunity to review, based on all of that, that you also narrow that from 12 down to a more workable number. We appreciate the opportunity to be here remotely this morning for the actual interview processes in Clearwater. Ann will be with you for the city attorney interviews, and I will be with you for the city manager interviews in September. And Ann, do you have any additional comments before we turn it over to the council for questions?
No additional comments at this time.
Okay. Does anyone have questions for the consultant? Councilmember Beckman.
Well, good morning. Thank you for the work that you've done. I have a couple of questions related to the overall search. And as you can tell, I'm the only woman up here on this dais. And I have, to be perfectly honest, it was like a gut punch when I opened the document that I got first. 0 women in the final 12. And I stewed about it, and you know, it was upsetting. I reached out to our human resources director, and she said you would have some sort of an explanation of that. But you know, in looking at your description of your search, you said right that you had direct contact with 4,864 individuals. So as part of the explanation, I hope you can tell me what quantifies, as direct, what qualifies as direct contact with all these people that you're not able to come up with a female candidate.
You'll notice on one of the earlier pages of your binder, we did several things to generate this pool of candidates. We placed advertisements, and 2 of those advertising outlets are specifically directed to women. Then also we placed advertisements with such organizations as International Association of City and County Managers, and a large percentage of the membership of that organization are women. We also, on our mailing list, there was a large percent of women. At the end of the day, of the 109 applications, yesterday I did a count, I believe we had 16 applications, and then we had one individual who appeared to be potentially, and I say that potentially qualified for this position. However, she has expressed a strong interest in another one of our recruitments. And one thing we're trying to avoid here, that looking at the history of a lot of withdrawals, we're trying to stay with candidates we believe that will be with you through the interview process should you select them. We have, I think, a sterling record of attracting and placing female candidates. In this particular case, of the 15 candidates, we just did not find that any of these individuals' experience rose to the level of the 12 candidates you have in your book. Ann, do you have any additional comments or thoughts?
Councilmember Beckman, I truly appreciate what you're saying. As a employee, I have also been the sole woman sitting on the dais at times in my career. And I personally volunteer with Virginia Women Leading Government and serve on a task force with ICMA and with another non-government associated task force to try to attract more women to apply. Matter of fact, I just served on the National Association of Counties during their annual meeting. I facilitated a panel about attracting women to the profession, and not only to the profession, but to apply for positions that are that chief administrative officer. And what could we do as either recruiters, as local governments, as mentors in the profession to encourage more women to apply? It's something that we struggle with, that we constantly work on, and we're very mindful of. So I appreciate your question. It's an ongoing outreach effort that we do to try to attract more women to apply to CAO positions.
What is the percentage of females to males as city managers across the country?
Chuck, I'm not sure if you know that. I don't know that. I know here in the state that I work in the Commonwealth of Virginia, I want to say there are 5 or 6 CAOs. And I think that may even include deputies at this point. We had 2 that just moved out of state to another deputy position, but it is significantly lower, significantly.
I can speak for several years ago, did some research on this related to the state of Texas, where I office. And there was an irony there in that statewide, the percentage of female chief executives in municipalities was fairly small. I think it was 20%. 15%, some there. But on the other hand, of the 5 largest cities in Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin.
Recording in progress.
Of those 5
Thank you
largest,
for that news break. Okay, go ahead.
they all had female chief executives at that time. Which, if you look at the majority, we are mindful, Ms. Beckman. We appreciate the question. We struggle with it often in recruitments, not just in city manager recruitments, but in police chief recruitments, fire chief recruitments, public works, all of that. And it's something that we're mindful of and we think is important.
Okay, well, thank you. I understand it must be a challenge. And so it looks like we had about 20% females that applied for out of our 109 applicants. There was one indicator, a Dr. Kim. I don't know if that was a male or female, but your question, my question still is, you had a statement of 4,864 individuals with direct contact. So can you just define direct contact for me so I understand what that means?
We did a series of 3 emailings to email addresses of candidates. Those are contacts. We also, Ann called individuals she thought would be interested or qualified. I called individuals.
Recording stopped.
Okay. And then the other thing was, out of the 109 applications here that we have, how many are new? Because, you know, as I skim through the ones that the 109, just the names, I noticed like Jan Shang was listed there, and, you know, Mike's Garage Doors or whatever, that person I think was on the other one. I didn't pull out the first binder information and compare it to this one, but it looks like there may have been some overlap. So do you know how many are brand new candidates that applied this time?
About a week before the closing date, I looked at that and it was about 50-50. New candidates versus repeat candidates. Of the 12 in your binder, 2 of those, Johnston and Gefkin, had applied in the first round. But overall, I could get you an exact number after this meeting, but I believe it's probably about 50-50.
So the extended time to do another national search got us to about 50 more applicants than the first round. Is that about right? Something like that?
I think we had about 86 in the first round, and we have 100 and how many this time?
109.
109. So.
All right, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
First thing I can say is, you know, this is what Baker Tilly does. This is their business. They're very good at what they do. But I want everybody to keep in mind and recall, we wouldn't be sitting here today going through this exercise if we hadn't gone through the Strong Mayor initiative and go to ballot, because I believe to the core of my being that Bill would already be retired and Jill Silverboard would be sitting right here. And we would have a female city manager if we had not gone through that exercise. So, you know, I have faith in Baker Tilly and their vetting of these people. I would not have any problem if there were females on it, but if they think these are the top 12, then I have faith that, you know, we want the best regardless of ethnicity or anything. So I'm comfortable with what we have to choose from.
We do have 3 minority candidates in the
Yeah.
final 12. I want to point that out. People may not have the luxury of understanding that at home. I thought that any other questions for our consultants at this time?
No.
I thought the narrowing for the city attorney position went very smoothly, significantly more smoothly than I anticipated. I appreciated that. And so in lieu of that, I narrowed it to 5 candidates for myself. And I put together a matrix. If you could pass those. And I just created a matrix with all of your names on them too, and all of the different semi-finalists. And I thought maybe it would be easier if we found out what we have, who we have consensus on, and then, you know, if we've got 2 or 3 that fall out of that, it would be easier. So I had Mr. Dahoney, Mr. Dugan, Mr. Jennings, Mr. Moffett, and Mr. Mondell. Some people may be surprised that I did not include Mr. Gefkin in my final pick this go around after we had him in our final 5. After watching the interviews, and then also the fact that he's not ICMA certified, that had a bearing for me. So those are the 5 that I came up with that I would like to take as finalists. And certainly you all may have folks that you'd like to see that are not on my final. So, Councilmember Albritton.
Yes, amazingly, it was the same 5 that I came up with. And I put them in an order, but we can talk about that. I thought they were very credentialed. I was impressed. I'm sorry, Mr. Gaffigan, who I picked last time. Am I on?
I'm hearing you, but I'm next to you. Are you hearing Councilmember Albritton out there? No.
I'm sorry.
There
How
you
about
are.
now? All right. Yes, I picked the same 5, and I put them in an order, and we can talk about that. But I think you were requesting 4. I went to 5.
I have 5.
Yeah, but the brochure said 4, but we did 5 for city attorney, so I did 5 here. And I was impressed by the credentials of all these candidates, and I'm sorry that Mr. Gaffigan, who I picked last time, didn't make that list.
Vice Mayor?
Well, I appreciate your list and everybody else's, but I would not, mine would be, here are my top candidates. I wouldn't say any of them, or just a couple of them maybe are in the no category, but I think mine were Mr. Dugan, Mr. Jennings, Mr. Dahoney, Mr. Doherty, and Mr. Moffett.
Okay, so the difference there is Mr. Doherty
Mm-hmm.
and then Mr. Mondell. Okay. Councilmember Beckman?
I had Mr. Dahoney, Mr. Fletcher, Mr. Guffigan, Mr. Jennings.
I can't hear you.
I'm not hearing her.
I had Mr. Dahoney, Mr. Fletcher, Mr. Gefkin, Mr. Jennings, and I'm okay with Mr. Moffett and Mr. Mondell. So.
Okay. Councilmember Bunker?
I liked Mr. Dahoney. Also, Alfred Jerome Fletcher. I really liked him. Mr. Jennings, Mr. Johnston, and Keith Moffett.
Okay, so I'm seeing Mr. Mahoney, Mr. Jennings, and Mr. Moffett as unanimous. Uh, then I think we need to pick two others, and maybe we can talk about why different people would like or would advocate for that person to be on the list. So I'm going to start with the vice mayor, and you have Mr. Doherty.
Mr. Doherty was probably last of my, as I rank them. And I think I'm the only one who actually picked him. So I'm not going to, I mean, there's a couple that have more than one vote. So.
Okay. And then 3 out of the 5 of us had Mr. Dugan.
Mm-hmm.
That's Councilmember Beckman and Bunker, who don't have him on their list. Mr. Fletcher is on Councilmember Beckman's and Bunker's list. Mr. Gefkin is only on Councilmember Beckman's list. Can we strike him? Okay. Mr. Johnston is on Mr. Bunker's list exclusively.
If I can jump in,
Certainly.
I really, I mean, Mr. Dugan, you know, as you look at it, I like the fact that he's a local, well, he was a local guy. He went to school here locally. He's got a great resume, spent a lot of time in Auburn, Alabama, but now he's out in California. But I think I'd at least like to have him come back and be able to speak with him. I know most of us, if we grew up somewhere and have been away, and you know, coming back home is always an attractive something, and I'd like to at least hear what he has to say. I think that's why I'd like to see if we can bring him.
I liked his experience. I do like the fact that he went to Dunedin High, but I also like the fact that he seems to be relatively stable.
Yeah.
Staying at jobs for longer periods of time. I know he hasn't been obviously in his current position as long, but has family in the area. I thought his interviews were very good, and the answers to his questions were well fleshed out. I wanted to stay on the positive, but are there reasons specifically that you all did not have him on your list? Charles Dugan.
Well, he's not IFCMA certified, and I have, well, let me make sure I
Thank you.
Yeah, you're muted. Sorry.
So some of my notes are, you know, it's not listed as ICMA certified. I have a couple of notes, you know, I don't want to go into super specifics. You know, he has, I found his answer on climate change fairly weak. And as well as the answer on what is your view on departmental leadership in terms of setting goals and reporting out. So those were two concerns I noted.
I didn't find any of the answers for the climate change that compelling from any of them, did you?
I thought they could have done better, but you know, the candidates in my top 5 that I researched and then went on to their city websites, it's interesting that most of them are doing much more, having much more aggressive goals related to sustainability and resiliency than City of Clearwater is. So they got kind of a bonus point that way. But
Okay, Councilmember Bunker.
I don't have a problem with Mr. Dugan at all. I have in my notes here that I like him. There were just other candidates that I felt stronger about.
That's reasonable. Councilmember Albritton.
Yeah, and I kind of think the same as Councilman Bunker. I went through, I like the fact that he went to Dunedin and he is familiar at least with our location and has family here. I didn't have anything negative. All these top 12, they were all great. And I had to just go through them a couple times and get kind of my bearing on which ones I would prefer over another one. So that's why he didn't make the list. There was nothing negative on it. It's just I had better feel for other candidates to make the top 5.
Okay, but I thought I had you with a yes on him.
No, I had
That's what you said.
Dohoney, Doherty, Fletcher, Jennings,
So you had, okay,
Moffett, and Mondale.
well, that's 6.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, let's see here. I got them right here. No, Mondale didn't make it. I didn't have him numbered.
All right, we'll come back to that. Mr. Fletcher, Councilmember Beckman and Bunker, you want to make your case?
Well, I really was impressed with Mr. Fletcher. Just overall, he seemed to have a lot of strength and energy, and I loved his outreach, his views on minority hiring. He was a little too eager to form a relationship with Scientology, but I'll talk to him about that. That's one thing that we asked for in our perspective. You're going to have to create a relationship with him. I think he's the only one who mentioned it, but I was incredibly impressed with him overall.
Councilmember Beckman.
Okay, so I too noted that, I noted that he's an ICMA candidate. I was a little concerned with some shorter job stints. I liked his answers a lot. He's talking about dashboards, outward facing communications, quality of life for all. I thought his answers were, I thought they were good answers. His response to climate change, they have some more aggressive goals. And, the way I did it is the response to their questions, I made notations in the margins as to which ones were very good. I thought he did a good job. His interview was fine. I know interviews are on camera have got to be a nightmare. I mean, being on camera is the least favorite part of the job for me. But I thought he did a nice job.
I thought his interviews were probably the best of all the candidates. I appreciated his energy. The ICMA has been raised on others. That was an issue for me. And the fact that he has not been the lead person.
Right.
That's my biggest concern. He's had a very good career of being assistants, but has not yet been elevated to the head of an organization. And I just questioned whether I wanted it to be Clearwater as his first. And that's why he didn't make my top 5. Any other comments?
So is it just for Mr. Fletcher? Is it just Mr. or Councilmember Councilmember Albritton, myself, and Councilmember Bunker? Is it just the three of us on Mr. Fletcher?
I just have you and Bunker.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm,
No, I had Fletcher. I had myself. Yes.
Don't you have? I gotta get your.
I
You
said
told
it
me
twice.
you had. Said originally you have who I had. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Oh well, no. I guess I did. No, I didn't. And I was off the mic when I said that.
So what are you? So who are you?
So can you go
Okay,
back?
I'll go back. Let me go back. Doe Honey is a yes. Doherty, a yes. Fletcher is a yes. Jennings is a yes. And Moffett is a yes. I had Mondel, but I had him highlighted, not picked. Those are my 5.
Okay. So 3 of you have Mr. Fletcher. And then where we have, so Mr. Mondell, we only have myself and Councilmember Beckman.
Thought I had Mondale.
Do you?
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. He was my 6th. Okay. No, he wasn't my top 5.
Councilmember Beckman?
he was one of my, not at the top 5. So if we want to,
So you feel more strongly about Mr. Fletcher than Mr. Mondell?
yes.
Okay, then I'm going to strike Mr. Mondell.
Okay.
And do we want to add Mr. Fletcher as a lock? I'm fine with that
We can.
because I'm losing Mondell. So
Mondale was also only an assistant, wasn't he?
no, he's the head of the county, I believe, Bibb County.
Oh, that's right.
Mm.
I do have in my notes that I liked him.
That was good.
I'm sure that will be a relief to him after we strike him.
Aw.
Okay. So, so we have 4. We need a 5th.
No, Mondale was not Bibb County. That was Moffett. Mondale was Rockford or Rockland,
Okay.
but he was Ocala assistant manager.
So we have Mahoney, we have Fletcher, we have Jennings, and we have Moffett.
We got 4.
Do you want to keep it at 4 or do you want a 5th?
I'm good with 4.
If we're comfortable with those 4, we should be able to find one out of that as we go through the next phase of the process.
Is everyone good with 4? It's more manageable,
Mm-hmm.
but if there's somebody that we really think we want to see in person. Okay.
Well,
so
okay. So Dugan is not on it.
that's correct. Only you and I liked Mr. Dugan.
Okay.
Am I hearing consensus?
Yes.
Anything you want to add, Mr. Horn? Ms. Aiken? Sorry about Judd, Miss Aiken.
Yeah, I had the same note.
Okay. Well, Ms. Lewis, Mr. Rohr, anything to add?
Mayor, we will proceed with, we will gather additional materials from these 4 candidates. We'll do reference and background checks. We've done some media search, but we'll go deeper so you'll know what's been in the media on the internet about these candidates, both positive and derogatory. And we'll be prepared to present an interview binder to you before your interviews that captures all this information. And we will also develop interview questions and So get you prepared to actually meet these candidates in person.
Let me ask the council. First of all, I'd like a motion for the 4, but if one of them were to drop out for some reason or information was found that would disqualify them, as they have all been made aware, would you add Mr. Dugan?
Yes.
I'm seeing nodding heads from.
Yeah. I'm
Yes.
fine with that.
Dugan.
I would.
Councilmember
Although I have to
Beckman.
mention, I do like Mondell.
Do I have a motion for the 4 that we've selected to be
So
final?
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you both. We appreciate you tuning in. We look forward to seeing you in person at the future meetings. With that, we're adjourned.